Hey everybody, welcome to Out on Film Conversations. My name is Craig Hardesty. I'm the board chair of Out on Film, and I am joined here um, this evening and tomorrow morning by my husband, Jim Farmer, who is the festival director of Out on Film. And bright and early in the morning from Australia, we have the team from Lonesome, Craig Borum, Josh Lavery, and Daniel Gabriel. So welcome, gentlemen, to Out on Film. We're very glad to have all of you.
Thank you for having us. We're very excited to be screening at the festival. Wish we were there.
Oh, I know. I wish that you could have been here. So I just want to give a little bit of an introduction to the film. So this is Craig's new film, Lonesome, that follows Casey, played by Josh Lavery, who is, like many gay men from across the world, running from a small town after a coming out scandal, and finds himself in the big city of Sydney, where he meets Tib, who is played by Daniel Gabriel. And both of these men find each other. They're both in search of connection and belonging, but neither of them seems quite to know how to navigate that. So I'm going to throw that open to make sure that I got that right. But I do want to say that Lonesome is screening it Out on Film on September 23rd at 9 p.m. So I hope that after you watch this conversation with the three of them, you're going to join us at the festival for really what I have to say. When Jim and I saw this at first, we loved this film. We knew that we wanted to have it at the festival, so I'm really excited to have the three of you joining us to talk about it. So Jim, I'm going to have you kick us off.
So Craig, just tell us a little bit about how the film came up.
Well, the inspiration, I guess, came largely from my own life, my own experience, my own family. Like I was born in Western Queensland, which is pretty rural, very very country, and moved to the city as a young person, but I still have a lot of family out there, and I guess and some queer people in my family, and the experiences of queer people in small town Australia are pretty unexplored in Australian film. So I kind of was really interested in that story. But the script itself came out of meeting the producers. Actually, the producers approached me and asked me if I had an idea for a film, and I kind of had two separate scripts, one where Tib was a central character and one where Casey was a central character. And I just had this idea that it'd be interesting if these two characters met each other and what would happen from those two people in these two very different worlds. And it kind of just exploded out of there, really. Like it kind of, once I did bring those characters together, the story just popped onto the page pretty quickly.
And so Josh and Daniel, how did each of you find your way to Casey and Tib? And Daniel, I'll start with you.
Yeah. How did I find it? Actually, Craig, can I tell the proper story?
Yeah.
We're all family here. Go ahead.
Brilliant. Well, actually, I was Craig actually found me on Grindr. And was like the first message was like, you've got a great look, and have you ever considered being an actor? And I was like, you're having me on, this is a joke, surely? Like, yeah, I'm an actor. Like, what is this? And then he was like, well, actually, I'm casting a movie at the moment. Here's the script, have a read, let me know if you're keen. And I was like, oh, this feels a bit shady, like not sure. But I was feeling like experimental. So I was like, you know what, let's have a coffee and let's see if this is the real thing or if you're just like a 98-year-old man hiding behind a screen. And then we had a coffee and it was beautiful. And then here we are. And then, yeah, it was a good script. So.
How did you come to play Casey?
I was contacted by Craig of Instagram. Because I did a video for my friends who have a queer magazine, and Craig saw that, and then messaged me on Instagram, and then we exchanged numbers, and then the next day, my Instagram account was deleted. So it was perfect timing. Like if it was a day later, might have been a different person playing Casey.
I will say that we did struggle with casting. We initially went through the more traditional casting channels with this film, but because of the nature of the film, because it's it's quite graphic in its portrayal of gay sex, it got hit with a lot of opposition from casting agents and traditional methods, and I was pretty keen to have a queer cast as much as possible. So so we started street casting via the apps, like looking at Instagram, looking at Scruff, looking at Grindr, and hitting people up, and it really paid off, and we found some really amazing people across the cast. Like we've got some really interesting queer characters from Sydney, a lot of artists, a lot of people who've done stuff in other mediums, but not so much in film. But I think it really works to give the film a sense of what Sydney feels like.
Exactly. So Daniel and Josh, characters are both very complex, very fully dimensional. Can you just sort of talk about who these characters are as the film opens?
And Josh, let's
Yeah.
start with you.
Yeah, so I think Casey begins the film quite a broken character with a really clear directive in mind, and he's quite closed off, he's quite hurt, and he's quite scarred. So I think that's how his journey starts off in the beginning of the film.
And Daniel,
Yeah,
where do you find Tim?
Tim. Yeah. Tim just wants to have fun, man. He just like is he's a cute guy. He just wants to get paid, kiss some cute boys, and then whatever happens else is, like it's just an accessory to the fun. Doesn't trust easily, so it was nice to have somebody that he could talk to, I guess, with Casey and confide with Casey. But yeah, ultimately just a fun guy.
And Craig, when you see the two of them and they're on screen, I mean, we see it now, but how did you know it was the two of them?
I was nervous about it actually, because we were doing a lot of the rehearsal during COVID lockdown. So and Daniel was in Sydney and Josh was in Melbourne. So they didn't get together until quite close to the actual shoot. So I was kind of talking to them one-on-one a lot of the time. Like Daniel and I, when Sydney was in lockdown, you weren't allowed to sort of do anything or hang out, but you're allowed to go for walks. So in parks. So Daniel and I caught up and we went for walks in parks, and we talked about the character and the way the character is in the world, and we dived into what was underneath the surface of Tib, and same with Josh. We did it kind of separately via Zoom. And when the two of them came together, I was initially pretty nervous that what if they don't get on with each other? But luckily,
And we still don't.
They were. This is not true.
Craig,
They
you
were
told
kind
me
of
he wasn't going to be on this Zoom.
They were pretty magic together immediately, and the energy between them was beautiful to watch. And the film is very challenging in a lot of ways. There's some challenging scenes, and I think the fact that they were so good together and supportive of each other really brought the story alive.
I wanted to ask you, I mean, there's some sexually frank moments in the film. Can you talk about working with an intimacy coordinator to sort of make everybody on set feel comfortable?
Yeah, it's a great process. We worked with Leah Palenkoff, who's an intimacy coordinator here in Sydney, and a queer woman, which was great. It was great to have someone who understood that what we wanted to do and was really into it. But I think that process is so valuable. Like I think just it's largely about developing consent for the moments in the film, like so everyone knows exactly what's going to happen on screen and exactly what's going to happen in the scene, so there's no surprises. And I think by doing that, it actually frees people up to really be spontaneous in those moments and feel really authentic in the images that we get from it. And I think the process is, I mean, I don't know, it's a fairly new process. It's something that I haven't done before in film. It's something that's very much come out of the Me Too movement, and but I've got to say, I'm a complete advocate for it. I think it was a wonderful process, and it really, but with this film especially, like, it would have been very difficult to make this film without Leah on board. She created a really wonderful safe space for everybody, and it made filming those scenes so much easier, in a lot of ways. Like those scenes can be really quite awkward or uncomfortable without that process, but they weren't, because we had Leah there looking after everybody and keeping track of it.
And so I wanted to ask, along those lines, for all three of you, this is not a sanitized look. At Gay Live, it is not a sanitized portrayal of gay sex, of men being physical together, both, sexually and not. Tell us from each of your perspectives why you feel it was important to portray all of this in such frankness that is going to get a little bit of pushback from certain quarters, but even sometimes in our own community, people don't want to see the real versions. Everybody wants kind of like a sanitized version of like, but that's not this. And tell us a little bit from each of your perspectives why you thought that was important. We'll start with Craig.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that was a big part of the initial inception of this film. I guess it was like tonally, we wanted the film to be an exploration of gay male sexuality now, and I guess the different ways that sex is used in our lives, like whether it's to relieve boredom or whether it's to punish ourselves or whether it's to make connection. Sometimes it's just transactional, and I kind of wanted to stay with it and be in amongst it rather than pan away to a pretty tree or something. We wanted to be in amongst the really subtle kind of intimate moments. I mean, I think the thing that I was interested in as well was making sex scenes important story moments. So they're not kind of just a scene where you see flesh. There's stuff going on between the characters in those moments, and it can be really subtle, but that's something I was quite interested in, putting on the screen.
And Daniel, why was this important? As you're reading the script and knowing, what you're agreeing to it and doing, why was it important for you to be part of this story in this frankness and is it just honesty?
Yeah. Well, I think you've hit it on the head with those words. I think it is frank, it's honest, and it's like open, which, we don't get to see that on the screen. I was watching House of Dragons yesterday, and like there was some pretty questionable scenes in that between a male and a female, but it's because exactly that there was a male and female that we got to see that. Whereas like we never just get to see two guys doing their thing. And a lot of the community has come back and been like, this is awesome. This is so good. Like, thank you for giving us this insight and this honesty. And a lot of women, a lot of lesbians, a lot of femme presenting non-binary people have come up to me and been like more so than men. I have actually had like hardly any men come up to me, but that group of people have just been so emphatic towards what we've done and have been so like receptive, because they're like, I just didn't know at all that this is how it was. And that's just like a lack of education, and it was, and everybody's enjoyed it and they've had so much fun. So yeah, I think that's why it's good, and and Craig has done like a really beautiful job about being both frank but also delicate with how the story was told, and it was still so earnest and still like really beautiful. And we got to just see these two boys live their queer life as it is for all of us, you know, as queer people. So, and it can be intense sometimes. It's also beautiful.
And Josh, what about you? I mean, Casey goes through a range of sexual encounters. You know, so from your perspective, why was it important to portray Casey's evolution and life in the way that you did?
Yeah, well, I think that's what we all go through. Do you know what I mean? As queer people, because, you know, my own journey as Josh is, you know, I moved to the city and I came from a really small country town as the only gay person. And I kind of had to go on a journey, do you know what I mean, of like sexual experimentation. And I don't think it's something that we see very often. Like queer sex is pretty underrepresented in films. Even though we're getting more and more queer movies and characters and stuff like that, it's always sanitized or more, so it's more palatable, do you know what I mean, for wider audiences. But I personally love the films where, you know, we get a glimpse of what it's really like. Like I love like Stranger by the Lake, like that movie is so explicit.
Yeah.
Weekend as well, I really love the sex scenes in that as well. And because we don't get it really often, that's what I was like so excited about for this film, that, you know, it wasn't holding back, and I could relate to it personally as well, and I'm sure lots of other queer people can as well.
I wanted to ask you, we're in an era right now where, knock on wood, we can have queer directors telling these stories, and queer cast members, and as you mentioned, a lesbian intimacy coordinator. Why is that important?
I mean, I think on our set it was important because we were talking about such a specific world, that it would have been hard for a straight audience to even know where to begin with that world. You know what I mean? Like there were so many things that were things that we know about that are coded and built into our, you know, our cultural DNA, I guess. And I think, I mean, we definitely could have made the film with a straight cast, but it would have been a different film, I think, and it probably would have it would have been much harder. I think what people brought to it was their own experience, and you know, Josh and Daniel, when I met with them, they brought up a lot of their own insights to the characters. Like they shaped the characters, you know, based on who they are. I mean, they're not those people. I mean, but they understood those people, and that was really helpful. Yeah, I mean, it was important, and I think the process, it made for a really amazing on-set experience as well as what ends up on the screen. I think the actual shooting of the film was kind of energized by the fact that everyone wanted to tell the story.
Josh, Daniel, do you have any thoughts on that?
Pardon?
Yeah.
You have any more thoughts on that issue of having queer representation?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just mean how cool that we got to make this, you know, queer as fuck movie, and you know what I mean, 90% of the crew was queer, you know what I mean. That, I think that's so special. Just having you know, a bunch of queer people coming to tell a queer story. Yeah, I just think that's cool.
And
Yeah,
I think only queer people could do this thing with macaroni and cheese. I'm going to go there. I'm so going to go there. I think that's something really only we could do.
Absolutely.
Craig, I wanted to ask you about Ian Roberts, who's in this film. I mean, can you talk about having him as part of this project?
Yeah, Ian, I worked with Ian a couple of times now. I did a short film with him years ago, and he was in my first feature, Teenage Kicks. And Ian is a extremely well-known figure in Australia because he was a professional rugby league player, and a really famous one. And he came out. He was like the first person in rugby league to come out as a gay man back in the day, and it was huge. It was a huge moment. And you know, Ian has since moved into acting, went and studied acting after his rugby career ended, and is really great. It's a really great actor, and I wrote this part for Ian because I wanted to put Ian in. I knew that he was really great with doing these quite complex characters with something subtle going on underneath, and I knew that he could pull it off really well, and he did. He's great, and he's also, you know, amazing looking on screen. He's like this very imposing, gigantic man. You know, so it was really wonderful to have him in the film.
Great, thanks.
So one thing, so Craig, I wanted to ask you. So for me, when I was watching this film with them, so much of this film is about finding your place in the world. So what is, and really for all of you, I mean, do you know, like Tim quite literally is trying to find his place in the world, and Josh is, and Casey is kind of wandering and trying to find a place. Why are these stories of finding place and belonging so important for queer audiences?
You know,
I think for Tib, like it's pretty spectacular, and I've had a lot of feedback from the POC community. Like it's great to see somebody, you know, who isn't white on screen, and it speaks to a lot of people, and to see somebody that's in the struggle, like in the middle of the struggle, and still finding joy through it, and is still trying to live a like full life despite the odds, and despite squatting in this place, and despite the fact that the cops could come kick him out at any point. Yeah, I think that's pretty important. You know, it's like it's so great to see, and so special to see, and and people want to see that, because that is the story for a lot of Black people, a lot of brown people, a lot of Asian people. Like it's just that, especially in a Western country, like it's a nice thing to see and to feel held by that. So, and I know for me, when I was reading the script, I was like, oh, this is great. This is great. And they Craig and Dean tried to get me to trim or cut my afro, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. The afro is a character in itself. It's truly like it's its own moment. It has its own script. It's got its own thing going on. Like we can't touch the afro. And sure enough, like after the movie came out, I had so many Black people come up to me and be like, the afro. It's so nice to see an afro just be natural and do its natural thing on screen. Like, thank you. And it's those little things. It's those little things that community can find, and it means something. The smallest thing means everything to somebody. So, yeah, I think tip is important in that way.
And Josh, every gay boy loves a cowboy.
Yeah, as every gay boy loves a cowboy, of course.
What is it?
Yeah,
why do you think that? Why is that important as a queer storyline? Because everybody loves a cowboy.
Yeah, why do we love cowboys? I don't know. I guess they're hot, right? But I think queer people can always relate to having to find their place in the world. Do you know what I mean? I feel like we're born, you know, a few steps back than everybody else. You know, we're disadvantaged just by being queer. So I think it's just inherently badder and harder being queer. So, and to find your place in the world as well. Do you know what I mean? In a heteronormative world, trying to find your place, it's something that we can all relate to.
I'll wrap it up with one final question. What's next for all three of you? And Craig, what's next for the film?
The film is going to have a cinematic release here in Australia and a few different places around the world, and then out to the world of streaming. I would imagine. That's all in the process of being locked down now. For me, I'm currently developing a new film that's based on a novel that was a noir film, which is very exciting, which we're kind of deep in at the moment. So that's cool. And Also, I'm collaborating with Josh on a short project. We're working on another project together, which would be really great.
Excellent. Daniel, what's next for you?
Baby, we out here were working. I've got a little cameo in a Netflix thing coming up, which is really exciting, with Celeste Barber, the comedian. She's an Australian comedian, period. Get your coin, get your bag. You know how it goes. Yeah, what else? I got a silly little TikTok series that I've got another thing coming in. Web series are like big now. Like,
Yeah.
People are putting heavy funding into web series. It's actually crazy. Like, who knew TikTok would be offering $70,000? Like, I'm not getting paid that, but they're offering $70,000. It's crazy. So there's that, and then yeah, just like little theater things locally. Writing my own things. I'm developing my own little horror film. It's in early stages. Everybody's saying do a short first and then make a film, but I'm like, girl, I'm gonna make a movie. But yeah, so that's where I'm at.
Excellent. And Josh, what's next for you?
Yeah, I've been working on a short film that I've written, and Craig's been helping me out, and Craig's going to be directing it. So I'm really excited about that. So
Great.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I'm so upset we went to Frameline this year and we'd already seen the film and we were hoping we'd bump into you. We didn't get a chance to meet you. And I would have loved to have met all three of you at Frameline.
Oh no.
Oh, shame. You didn't come to the
that's
drag
cool,
party?
yeah.
I didn't know about the party.
It was cute. It was cute.
All right. Congratulations.
Yeah, next time.
Exactly. Congratulations on that screening. Congratulations on the success the film is having worldwide. The film is Lonesome. It screens it out on film on Friday, September the 23rd at 9 p.m. And I'm sure you're going to love it. So, Craig.
You are going to love it. And I do want to thank you, Craig, Daniel, and Josh. Thank you for making a queer film with queer people. And thank you for bringing it to all of our patrons here at Out on Film.
Hey,
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Out on Film.
Nice to chat.
Thanks so very much.
I love Atlanta. I love Atlanta.
Come to the screening next week.
Yeah.
Oi, honestly, fly me over or whatever. Get me that ticket.
All right.
This is an independent film.
Right. Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us for this
Thanks,
Out on Film
guys.
Conversations, and we will see you at the movies.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Bye.